Hello and welcome back to Motorsport Manager with me and the Sailing Speedstars. Now, due to a technical error, a hard drive mashup with a Windows update, I've actually lost the footage I did for the next couple of this episode and the next episode. So I've had to redo this. There's some slight changes. We got slightly different positions in the Vancouver race, but it makes very little difference to the standings, a point here or there. And I think I'm probably about an extra 100 grand down because I hadn't taken any sponsorships yet. But anyway, back to the show. And as you may recall, we've sent our scouts out looking at some drivers. This guy wasn't available to scout the first time round, so I've scouted him this time, William Shannon. We'll have a look at him tomorrow when the scout report comes in. But we've had the pre-race report. We're back in the room. Here is our pit crew, which I think needs a little bit of work. We'll have a look more in detail at how pit crews work. What I intend to do, there's lots of layers of depth to this game. And rather than try to make a 12-hour episode where I explain everything, I was very brief in episode 1. Episode 2, we really had a bit of an overview and an introduction to the race days and the whole practice, qualifying, etc. So now, episode by episode, we'll start looking at a little bit more detail. So pit crew, the main thing to watch is to not let their stamina get down too low. We're going to see if there's anyone worth hiring. There's lots of people available, but is anyone worth it? Avoid the guys with really low stamina unless they've got something else about them that makes them fantastically attractive. The ones in the 80s, high 80s are fine, 0.1% mistake chance. This guy here with 10 on the tyres, 9 on the rear jack, 11 for refueling is, I think, worth having. Whereas this guy down here with his 72 stamina, 0.5% mistake chance, which doesn't sound much, but it does stack up as they get tireder. So we're not going to go for him. A couple of these we're actually going to reject because, like this one here, it will encourage other drivers to spawn in our queue of people who want a job. So I'm actually going to reject him because we're never going to employ him, but we are going to take this guy on here. And slowly building up our pit crew over this year is definitely something I want to do. It really does make the race day management much, much smoother. Just checking that there's nobody on their knees. He's quite low. He's quite low. Let's see. We'll put 298 man in there just for the sake of the stamina. I know it's lower ratings, but believe me, reducing mistakes saves you much more time than having 2 or 3 more points on one of these. Okay, we'll come back to the pit crew. Have a real proper look another time. There's lots of information on this screen, and when we're in a race we'll have a look at it. Okay, we're in the garage, so let's check on the parts. Oh, those engines are well tuned up. We've got a nice safety margin. We'll put the gearboxes for now straight in to get their reliability up. Just check the mail. Scouting report finished. Who have we finished scouting on? Mr. William Shannon. Now let's have a look. William, he's 2 stars and a little bit. Can go up to 3. He's got reasonably good stats. He's very comparable to Bill, actually, isn't he? In fact, let's compare him to Bill. Bit better on braking, bit worse on cornering, almost the same on smoothness, worse at overtaking but more consistent. Adaptability, both rubbish. Fitness, I don't know how badly this affects performance over the course of a race. I'll see if I can figure it out. We'll start looking at some of the data during the races as we get through the season, get a little bit more in depth. That might give us a clue. Feedback, not really much in it, 10 or 8, and focus, 0 or 5. So Shannon, you don't really care. A bit apathetic. He is good at feedback, so he's got a +2. Let's get it back on his screen. he is a paid driver, so you'll get paid 214,000 per race that he races in. If he were practice driver, backup driver, then we get half that, but he wouldn't be very good at that. And he's just had a baby, so his marketability and morale are up and his focus and fitness are down. So he would actually have 2 focus after 5 weeks. He's only got 21% marketability. Now, I think on William, we're probably, let's have a little, I'm going to have a little look. As long as you don't actually conclude this screen, you can have a little poke around to get an idea of what they might want. And I think he's probably going to want a little bit more than we pay him. They're fairly important to him, and the scale, just, you know, the reason we look is to see what this scale is. It does vary from driver to driver and indeed staff member to staff member. So I think would kind of not be paying him much because he's a paid driver, but I'm not sure he's the man for us. He's basically a bill. Almost identical. Right. So there'll be no staff changes as yet. We've got 2 more scout reports to come in. We can start scouting somebody else now we have an extra slot. What I'm looking for now, I've sorted by racing league. The only people that are going to join us are the unemployed people who are now down way at the bottom, who we've already had a little look through driver wise, and I'm not too impressed with what's left down there apart from our friend Falco, but we've got plenty of time to look at him. He may be a target for the end of the season before anyone else snaps him up. He is named, or shares his name with the street where I grew up, so there seems to be a thing that, and he looks quite good. And what you will find is if you leave a driver unemployed for the first season, and there's no real hiring and firing on the AI teams until the last kind of race kind of period, stuff might start to happen. He'll lose morale because he's not driving, and he might well be a lot cheaper to sign on at the end of the season than he would be now. Anyway, what we're looking for now is in the European Race Series and in the GT Challenger Series, so we can recruit from these teams. Some of these guys won't want to talk to us, but certainly none of these guys would. Not interested. I'm not joining a team in your crappy competition. I'm in this cool one. So let's have a little look. I'm looking for very low costs per race, and then we're just going to check the stats to see. Bjorn Blend. I'm not going to try and say that. No. Leonzio Farah, 19 years old. He's got a very good potential high feedback score there. So let's have a look at him as well. 76,000. Brake contract isn't ridiculous, so it could be possible. You really don't in your first season want to spend money too much on braking contracts. Right. Talking of spending money, we can't spend any money. Well, we've got a lot of money to spend, but that's going to go on parts and paying for races. So it cuts down those racing costs. Let's see if we've got anything. It's $1 million, but it's for 10 races a whole season, so it's 100 grand a race plus a really ridiculously small bonus. So we're not even going to accept that. That'll expire. We'll get a new offer after the next race. This one's here for 2 races. These are bonus only, second or above. We're going to wait until we've got at least 3 offers in for each slot before we can really assess. Unless one of the ones that I know is particularly good pops in, and we've had no offers on the fixed payment sponsors yet. So, as things stand, we're going to be losing 1.3 million almost a race, and this is the figure we need to address through getting sponsor money here. And it is the financial game that is the aim of the game, really, here. Season 1, performances aren't going to be good. If you've started with the low pressure setup and the 3-star car, and you play well and you do spend money wisely in the first season, be it on drivers or equipment or the better mix, you're maybe going to get in the middle, maybe a bit higher. Problem with that is second season your car's going to be worse. You can't possibly build a car in the second season as in terms of the chassis as you have in the first season. So you're always going to take a step back. If you finish up here in your first season, your second season objectives are going to be sort of where you finished, or 2 or 4 places above. So that's the pressure you're going to be under. And the second season, if you've worked like that, you might have a bit of a shock because you might be down here and then you could start getting in trouble. But we'll see. It's just something to be aware of. Like, starting off with that 3-star car is great in the first year, but is going to maybe set you back in the second year. Just bear that in mind. I avoid that startup anyway. It's all about the sponsors. Okay, we have finished designing our car part, which was a suspension, if I remember correctly. Cheapest one to build. We'll get these 2 suspensions built simply because they're cheap and they're quick. So that needs to go into one of these slots. So they're up to 85%, which is quite acceptable. So let's have a look. 4 days after race is when this is going to get to 100%. So it's going to be very serviceable well prior to the race. So we can share, I think, another slot with him. We're just gonna, I think we will use the weakest link now. Those brakes, we'll give those a little bit of a polish. So you see now it's going to take 13 days to get them both up to 100%. We'll have a look, we'll keep an eye on this. I think it's going to concentrate on this one until the 40% gets nearer to the 75%, and then it will start boosting them both. I'll see. I'm sure that's what the computer game will do. It is really quite important you keep on top. If you're planning to build parts, it depends completely on your budget, but if you've got money to build parts, crack on and build them, because then they're in play the next race rather than the race after. Nothing has moved there at all. We're going to just build ourselves now another suspension, but we've made the average one, so now we've unlocked these good components. And we've unlocked slot 2. So now we can use 2 average components to build our suspension. But this one's a rule break. We won't be building those till later in the season. But we've got loads of dodgy rule breaks. We could get a very powerful couple of sets of suspension built late in the season to use next year. We can't ever unlock the great ones as we are, because we need to get the, I believe it's the design center upgraded to then build, which one? Handling Development Center is locked behind the level 2 design center, so we can't do anything there. The test track is locked behind the upgraded factory to level 2. We may look at upgrades later in the season, but certainly not at this stage. We haven't got the money, or I can't be sure that we've got the money until we get the sponsorship deal signed. Right, back to where we were so I don't forget. We'll make our suspension, so we're going to keep it legal so we can use it. I'm not worried about reliability out of the box. It's going to be built a few days before the race. So if we just go for medium speed corners times 20, using this one here unlocks 2 great slots. So if we want to, later on when we build that cheaty one, if we want to use these 2 risk level components, and then that's going to give us that's a mighty suspension system for so early in the game, to be honest with you. 108 ultimate performance, we might want to do that. Otherwise we could do that, which is just under 98 for our 2 slots, but also we may well have an extra slot because they're the extra suspension systems. We'll unlock a slot each time we build one. So we're going to keep it legal. We're going to go for medium speed corners plus 20, add 2 days to the build time, giving us 6 days to get it ready for the race, although that's not quite right because we leave 2 days before. So we're going to be cutting it fine, but we're going to give it this one, which at least gives it 45% reliability. And as we've discussed before, if we want a weak part on our car, we want it to be suspension or brakes, because we can get those repaired as we're refueling the car. So there you go. Going to cost us 300,000. And it's going to be ready, 2 days before we leave for Dubai. So, off you go. And why brakes? Why suspension first? Because they're quick and they're cheap. You can always do it. Sometimes, especially in the first season, you want to be careful about building engines. They're over $1 million each. In this series, they're even more expensive in the open wheel. Gearboxes are about $750,000, so that's quite an investment. And again, until we get these sponsorship deals signed, and we've got some more offers in, but I'm reluctant to sign anything until we've got the staff sorted out and we see what our sponsor appeal level is then. We've got some very short deals, so that's going to be 100. Well, in effect, 110,000 a race. Plus 85, that's 200,000 a race, which at this stage isn't too bad at all for 4 races. So just to give us some money, I'm going to sign, am I going to sign one deal? We got 3 offers in. They're going to be here, if we don't take them, we won't have any deal for 2 races, so we may as well take that. Yes, there you go. So we've got our first sponsor. And if you hover over that slot here, it will show you where that's on the car. Okay, so that's it. We've got a sponsor. We also have had the scouting report in, I believe, on Sarah Thomas. Yes, we have. So let's have a look at Sarah. She's 2 stars and a half, and she can go up to what looks like just under 3. Her stats are okay. In the first season, high stat drivers aren't going to really make the difference for you, but she's very kind of average, isn't she? And that might not be bad. What isn't average is 78% marketability, and that's with no temporary bonuses from the driver traits. Now, her traits are actually quite interesting. She has Chaser, so if she's in 2nd place, she'll get +2 to all her stats. If she manages to get into the lead, which is highly unlikely this season, but you never know in a wet, messy race, if she gets into the lead, she hates it, so she's -2 to all stats. So she could become like a yo-yo if the right conditions present themselves. So we'll see. But 78% marketability. That's probably going to take us up to 2 stars just by itself if we can get her on board. And obviously she needs to be their number 1 or number 2 driver for that to actually count. So we're going to start negotiations. Now look at this for an easygoing negotiation. She doesn't really mind about the status at all. So we're going to make her number 2 driver, planning for ahead. Because maybe there'll be somebody we really want to be number 1 driver later, and we don't want her thinking she's equal. If you signed her on equal and then signed a number 1, she still thinks she's equal, so she won't like it. If she's signed as number 2, if you have a definite number 1 driver later, Sarah hopefully won't get too cross that she's not getting the best parts. Wages aren't very important to you, and you go from 138 to 414, so I think we'll stay well down this end, sub 200, slightly more than we're paying the guys now. Short contract is absolutely fine by me. Signing on fee isn't very important, and neither are the bonuses, so we shan't offer any of them. If it's not important, just don't offer it. If you were to offer it, it's at least 22 grand, and some people I've seen just give it a couple of clicks because it doesn't seem like much money. Don't even think about it. So we've got 2 patient stars. I think that's probably quite a good offer for Sarah Thomas, and terms are very good. So not paying her a sign-on fee will offset should we sign her, and we have to wait for her to get back to us over here. So let's get on with that. We're going to have to pay a contract break clause. Right, contract offer accepted, so we're right in there. Arturo Casino having an affair. Focus -2. Oh, maybe should we get on our high horse and fire him for that? And that's our excuse. Yes, right, yeah. See here, these scores, should you care about them? Race management's going to go up and down depending on your results. Financial goes up as you stay in the green, and it goes down when you're in the red. Loyalty gets a hit when you sack people. I don't think it includes pit crew, but I'm not sure. We'll have a look. If I have a little coloured pit crew at some stage, we'll see if it affects that. These are only really going to count if you want to apply for a job in another team. So they're handy to have at a reasonable level, because then if you like, you can actually maybe partway through the season, load in your game, apply for a job at one of these, and just see what they're up to. It's quite interesting to see how the AI teams spend their money. It doesn't seem to be very wisely. Okay, we're going to sign up Sarah Thomas. We're not getting any feedback on the offer, but she's accepted it, so we don't need to. Don't tell the guys, I'm going to get rid of both of them. I played this game through, certainly the first season. This is my 4th time. I played it with one of the existing teams, Oakham. I've done it with a startup team, and I stuck with these 2 drivers. And they will, certainly for the first season, they're thoroughly acceptable to get you through there without you having to pay. It's going to be $1.5 million to pay them off. I actually think we're going to make the $1.5 million back on Sarah from the sponsorship deals we're going to get. Easy. So one of you is going to go. I'm just going to let Bill go for now because Arturo has quite a very good feedback, which will be handy in the next race, I think. So Sarah, you are replacing Bill, and we've got to pay. That's us paying off Bill. Off you go, mate. Have a nice long holiday. So we now have a new driver, Sarah Thomas. She's number 2. She's only got 9 months remaining on the contract. We've only signed her for the rest of this season, so we have to remember to renew it before it runs out. If you let her contract lapse on a driver or a member staff, this will just go to one of the default $1,000 a race drivers. You don't really want those. And then you'll have to try to recruit at the last minute, and you will be paying a lot of money, quite likely. And if you haven't scouted drivers that might be more affordable or in your price range, you then can't sign them anyway. So not until you've scouted them. So make sure you keep an eye on this. All the contracts, including your pit crew. You've had some more sponsor offer in, but we got slots empty. We're already up to 2-star sponsor appeal, so hopefully some of these 2-star offers will come in on these. Yeah, we got plenty of opportunities. So we're going to go into the next race, maybe, with no more sponsors. Contract terminated. Sorry, Bill. Contract signed. I'm the new broom and I am sweeping. Oh, we got another scouting report in here. Oh, we need to stop. I don't know why it doesn't stop for that, because it's, if you want to, it can catch you out, because you might want to really ideally get these drivers. Right, Frankie Kenny. Now, Frankie, look at that, 100% marketability. Again, nothing of that is... Oh no, she's plus 50 at the moment because she's doing fast food commercials. I think her base is probably about 60. I can't remember off the top of my head. She's a pay driver. So if she gets, if she's in one of your, car 1 or car 2, you're going to get paid $250,000, which is more than that Shannon guy was going to pay us. And if we use her as a reserve driver, as long as she does the practice session, we'll get half of that. So 125,000. I'm going to do an experiment. I have used Frankie before as a reserve driver, and she's fantastic at it. Her feedback score usually goes up as high as 19. I've had it. Her marketability stays up. These don't really matter if she's your reserve driver. For this season, I'm actually going to give her a proper drive. I want to see how she actually performs. Obviously, I know how the other guys have performed that you start with. I don't think I want to see how big an issue driver skill really is to performance. So this season, I'm going to try and keep the cars reasonably equal, although there might be situations when that's not possible, and just see how much of it is down to the driver. So let's approach Frankie, and there's that Frankie doesn't mind about her status. Wages really aren't very important to Frankie. Do I want to get her in for the next race? If you want to rush, maybe just give it a click more than you were thinking of. A long contract is fine by me, because even if we drop, she's 35. Her stats are going to start going down at some stage. Can we tell from her driver screen? Not while I'm in this screen. Signing on fee isn't important. Bonuses aren't important. We're not going to offer them. That is literally it. 72 grand a race. We'll make 180,000 race profit on Frankie driving for us. That's more important in the first season than how many points she gets, I can assure you. So that's in. Can we see? I don't think you can. There's no indicator that they're going up or going down. She's got some traits. Once we've got her signed up maybe and she's getting some activity behind the wheel, we'll see what's going on with her traits. But I think they do go up. They will go up, but we'll see. And again, we've got to wait. Okay, our suspension is built, and here it is. It's 57, tunable to 68. Considerably, well, 10 times the number than what we started with, but much, much better. Only 45% reliability, and we leave for Dubai. I may have made a mistake earlier. I think I may have said that they still race here, and it says next race in 2 days. You should add on the trackable time yourself, but it seems it is. I don't know if that's changed. I'm really confused. I thought it didn't count, but it doesn't matter. So it is the number of days shown up here, and in the calculations is to travel day. We've also got Frankie Kenny. She's accepted our contract. We'll get to that in a moment, but let's get back to the car. Design new part. Well, first we're going to get back to improving parts. So this suspension is up to 83. It's sound. The other suspension that we're going to have to use is in the 70s, but that's okay. Now we've got options. We've got like 2 or 3 days of reliability are going to go on. I'm tempted just to have a go. If we put the brakes in so they get a little bit of a boost, and hope that'll be over 80, and we know we're going to have to get in for pit stops on the suspension, and we're going to risk the good suspension, the better suspension. So you can both, at the moment, so we're going to go with Sarah Thomas. You're going to get that suspension on your car, and that can go on Arturo's car. Doesn't matter on the spec part, the spoiler, everybody's got the same spoiler. We can put the reliability up if we so desire. The engines are equally naff, and the gearboxes and the brakes, yeah, they're all so rubbish. The other teams, the worst team in the league is probably starting off with brakes and suspension in the 70s, and these probably in the 50s. The engines and the gearboxes, just so you know where we are in terms of our starting point. So we're not catching up yet. We're still behind in car development by a long way. Drivers. Right, Frankie has accepted our generous offer of £77,000 a race for a 33-month contract. Now, normally she is a reserve driver, and she is significantly better than Sabrina. But I've never replaced both. I've always kept one of the starter drivers on. And B, let's just have a laugh. It's the first season. We are going to sign Frankie, and we're going to replace Arturo. Now, there are 2 reasons for that. That's us paying off Arturo. Sorry, mate. It would have been fun, but we're trying something different. Now, of course, Frankie has 75% marketability, which is now counting. We're up to 3 stars. Because she's not the reserve driver, that's there. So look, we got 2 drivers that high. And I think she had a temporary trait, which is now gone, which is even better. Because if 75 is her base marketability, it is. And you know what? You can be a little bit of a resource hog. Sarah's quite not likely to improve. All of our drivers, so Sarah might slow down improvement slowly, but that's okay. And also, I'm just thinking there are a couple of circuits where driver weight is a factor, and we've got 2 ladies who are anything 15 kilo. We'll see. Well, I'll tell you about that when we get there. Actually, there's a couple of circuits where with a hefty man on the car, you can't get the weight balance set correctly. But that's a little bit of an aside. Sponsors. Has anyone noticed that we're now 3-star? Can we have a 3-star offer? No. We can have a 2-star offer for 9 races for 13th position or above. And I like Golden Tiger because this is achievable. 13th in qualifying or the race. So for 13th in qualifying, we can get 100,000, and in the race 100,000. If we can sometimes achieve that, it's a nice little top up on the cash. And 900,000 isn't too bad a payout, or we can wait and see what we get in this slot, because we don't need that 200 grand right now. We're still doing very nicely on the cash balance. Those, I don't want to really take any of those. That's only a 3-race deal, but there's no upfront payment, so I might as well just wait 2 races. I could take the 4-race deal and get 100 grand. We're not going to get a second, no. I'm simply going to play the patient game and hope that when these expire in 2 races, we get good enough offers. Well, we're not losing anything. We're not going to come second in any race, so we're maybe not getting 100 grand. What have we got here? Eve Technology, 9 races, so that's gonna be, that's less money than this one. We'll wait for the 3rd offer, and we've got 3 offers here. And to be honest, oh, it's a long deal though. I wish that was shorter. I think we'll go for 400 grand a race. We're going to take Ravelli. It's only 2-star. But that's a nice chunk to know that's going to be there for the whole season without any. Yeah, we'll take that just as a little. These 2 are the absolute security. That's short anyway. Right. So we still have 1, 2, 3, 4 empty slots. Our finances with our drivers, we're now down to losing already 500,000 a race. Partly because Frankie is paying us 180 grand more than we're paying her. About 173. So she's paying Sarah's wages almost there. Where were we? And then we've got our reserve driver costing us 46. So we've got this price down considerably. It now means the next 9 races are only going to cost us 4.5 million. So now 4.5 million of that has become spending money, potentially. We've still got quite a bit of money to come in. Quite often, if you don't get these things organised early on, and I've overdone it, and I am going to continue to overdo it perhaps, but you'll see why by the end of the season, and certainly the beginning of next season. This is all about getting ready for next season, not about track position this season. If you're running this at $1 million a race, which you are at the start, this money ticks down very quickly, especially if you start spending it. We're going to get a couple of engines. That's 3 million gone, or nearly 3 million gone. So, yeah, we're on a very good track here. We got some mail, but we know Frankie's accepted. Arturo has gone. Frankie has signed her contract. We've picked up Kenny. Right, where are we? Oh, look, we got another driver. Scouted tomorrow. Oh, see, well, it doesn't really matter. We're not going to get a deal done today with any driver. Who have we got now? Leonzio Farah. And he is a very competent reserve driver. I think we could do a quick comparison. I think as an actual race driver, Frankie is slightly better, but there's not an awful lot in it. He's a pay driver. We'll get paid. He's only getting paid 76 grand now. We'll probably have to pay him just a click or 2 more, maybe. And we've got to pay 379,000 to break his contract. But he's going to be paying us what in the reason? If we only use him as a practice driver, we'll get paid 132,000 a race, and that's going to be more than we're paying him. So we're going to get this money back. His marketability is 40%, but that's irrelevant. His traits aren't too relevant because he's found religion, so his morale is +10 and his focus is +1. So overtaking -2. He's a racer, so he's +2 on all his stats, and let's face it, he needs all the help he can get. He's not how can he +2 on consistency? Is his base -1? It's not even saying there's a modifier on it, actually. It's just saying action averse is taking -2 off it. It's not, can't be factoring in those traits. Ah, I know why. They will activate on there when he is in a car. Yes, I'm sure that is the case because they're off the found religion and it doesn't matter where he's in a car. If he's racing, in fact it says there, look, modifier applies during race only. But he's a paid driver. That's all I care about. And he's got 15 feedback, so he can actually be used as the driver for practice to get the money. Brilliant. Right, so fingers crossed. Not interested. I've only just signed a new contract. He would have been brilliant. We're going to definitely keep an eye on him. If he's just signed a new contract, and he has, maybe if we scouted him earlier, we might have got in there before he signed that new contract, but I doubt it. We'll have a look at him later in the year. He would be good to get on board. I do just want to start building us one engine. So here we've only got a choice of one of these. So top speed plus 10, reliability plus 10, reliability plus 15, fuel efficiency improved. None of those are really spectacular. We're just going to take the top, that one. We've got to get one built. Next one, we can look at upping the performance quite nicely by the look of it, but it's got to be done. It's £1 million. Well, £1 million plus 50,000 for this component, and then 100,000 for each of these components that you add. So we'll get that done. It's going to be 14 days after race, but before the next race, and that might be helpful. Now, it's go to Dubai day. We'll check the mail. We should have our little intel. 0% chance of rain. It's Dubai. What do you reckon? It's probably going to be warm. We'll look at what that does to the tyres. We do get one more opportunity. So Sarah's in car 2 and Frank is in car 1. This is going to flummox everybody. So I think we're going to see. We're going to try this suspension. I mean, this is telling us what's essential on the track. So it's top speed, deceleration, brakes, and high speed corners, which is the part we can't really, we have very little control over. Because they're crucial, I mean, we've got rubbish engines and we still got rubbish brakes, but they'll also take more wear. So that's actually something I had thought of, honestly. So the brakes are going to get the higher wear. The suspension hopefully will nurse through. Yeah, that's the plan. Off we go to practice. But we're going to call it an episode there, so join us next time for the race in Dubai. Thanks very much for watching. Hope this has been useful and enjoyable and maybe entertaining. Leave us a thumbs up if any of those applied. Leave a comment if you feel like it. Subscribe if you want to stay in touch. Thanks very much for watching and goodbye.